I'm Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. Welcome to the Recap and Discussion Podcast episode for Season 2, Episode 6 of Andor, a Star Wars Story, now streaming on Disney+. What a festive evening wraps up the BBY3 story arc for us. This podcast episode could contain information from any Star Wars content released as of May the 4th, 2025. There are First Impressions podcasts that review the story arcs released so far by my channel, in addition to recap and discussions for the first 5 episodes of Season 2. Lots to listen to, and I hope you're ready for more.
On program. That means hands on head, eyes front, feet on the floor. Do it!
Tony Gilroy, scriptwriter and Hollywood script fixer, is the showrunner and creator of Andor. The writer delegated to handle the story arc for BBY3 is Beau Willimon. 4, 5, and 6 are under his writing purview. House of Cards creator, executive producer of Severance on Apple TV+. I did not like his work this week. I think a lot of his work has been solid for Star Wars, but not this. The director, still Ariel Kleiman. He's in the chair for all 6 episodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, that have been released as of April 29th. Janusz Metz is going to take over next week to handle Dan Gilroy's BBY2 story arc, episodes 7, 8, and 9. There has been lots of crew overlap this season, especially inside each arc, but also for the whole season. Same for episodes 4, 5, and 6. That means I'm going to skip credits already mentioned, only bring up new names or changes. The director of photography, production designer, casting directors, visual effects supervisor, costume design, hair and makeup, special creature effects, and stunt coordinator, all the same for episode 6 as they were basically for episodes 1 through 5. So if you'd like to hear more about those, listen to our recap and discussion episodes like the season 2 premiere, where a lot of these names get a rundown of their resumes. For episode 6, the editor is once again credited to John Gilroy, Tony's brother. He edited episodes 1, 3, 5, and now 6 of season 2. He's going to be a soccer player. Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
I'm going to use that Billy Madison clip as much as I can. The music in Season 1, Episode 6 is once again credited to Brandon Roberts. Nicholas Bertel gets the original Andor themes credit, and he had the last 2 scored, but Brandon Roberts is back in the main chair. Disney Plus posts a runtime for the episodes in parentheses on the Disney Plus page for the show. It's not entirely accurate, unless you end up sitting through everything from the Disney Plus snap to the last page of foreign language credits. And I don't know anyone who does that. I don't even think it's possible, because at a certain point when you're watching the show, it tries to move you to the next episode if you don't click something. The runtime for episode 5 is not actually 58 minutes. The original theme music starts around 2.5 minutes after the Disney Plus snap and runs 46 minutes and 52 seconds to the cut to black, with Cassian walking from the scene of the bombing with Bix. But if you skip the original theme, you'd save yourself a little more than half a minute, 46 minutes and 17 seconds total. The thumbnail description available on the show's Disney Plus Episodes tab reads the same as the description on the show's episode page in Disney Plus. It reads, Vel and Cinta to Ghorman, Cassian home to Bix, an argument, a heist, a party, everything at risk.
You think anybody's listening?
Main build cast is mentioned every episode recap and discussion, though by now it's just a mention. If you want to hear more about their resumes, please go back and listen to previous recaps for the character's first appearance in this season. Diego Luna is Cassian Andor, title character of the show. Stellan Skarsgård is Luthen Rael. Genevieve O'Reilly plays Mon Mothma. Denise Goff is Dedra Meero. Kyle Soller is Syril Karn. Adria Arjona is Bix Kayleen. Faye Marseille is Vel Sartha. She's the cousin and not the sister of Mon Mothma. It's confirmed in this episode. I don't like that they used Aunt Vel in Season 1, and they didn't explicitly explain it. Last name's not enough, but she is the cousin. Benjamin Bratt appears as Bail Organa. He's filling in, so to speak, for Jimmy Smits. Smits plays him everywhere. Live action, in the prequels, Rogue One, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and even animated shows. So why the change? Scheduling officially. Let's not take away from Bratt's performance, though. He did great. I'm usually the one that doesn't believe in recasting. And I have to say, I did feel like he was Bail in the short time that we see him. I don't think it was necessary to see him in this episode, but maybe they're going to use him elsewhere later on. So if you're going to do it then and in a bigger way later, you might as well get people accustomed to seeing this different face. So guess what? I bought him as Bail. Listen, this guy is an accomplished actor. I don't have to run his resume down for you, but he was Manny's dad on Modern Family, the voice of Manny in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the voice of Ernesto in Coco, El Macho in Despicable Me 2. He was Eric in Miss Congeniality, Ramirez in Clear and Present Danger, and Alfredo Garcia in Demolition Man. I consider myself a fan of some of his work, so maybe that makes a difference. Virata Sethu is Cinta. Elizabeth Dulau is Kleya Marquis, and I love this character. I do have a secret hope she makes it out alive. I do. I'm going to hold out hope. Alistair McKenzie returns as Perrin, Mon's husband. Anton Lesser plays Major Partagaz of the Imperial Security Bureau. Richard Delane is Davos Golden. He is the father-in-law to Mon Mothma's daughter, Leda. Robert Ems is Lonni Young of the ISB, and I've grown fond of this guy. I hope he doesn't get force-choked. Jacob James Beswick is Supervisor Hirt, and I don't hate him. I just don't mind if Vader offs him. Richard Sammel is Caro Rylans, the white-haired leader of the Ghorman Front. Thierry Godard is Lazine. And Ben Mendelsohn returns as Director Orson Krennic.
What a swell party this is.
Now to the cast listings in the order of appearance section. And as a reminder, cast members showing up for the first time in Season 2 get more than a mention. Anyone else, you're going to get skipped. I know that means some of my listeners, if they want to hear more about the people who played a part in this episode, are going to have to listen to past podcasts, but that's a good thing for me.
Nobody here gives their real name.
So the first new character to Season 2 is Exmar Chloris. Lee Ross reprises his role from Season 1 as Mon Mothma's driver. We see a shot of him in this episode, but he's also a secret ISB agent. Oathkeeper was Kavin Cornwall, and this is the Oath Administrator in the Senate. Strang was Aiden Cook, and I know we've talked about Cook. He was just playing Two Tubes last episode, but here he's basically doing the performance for this alien that's checking out Luthen's ring, the physical part for the alien. But it is voiced by Claire Roy Harvey. Harvey played Maz Kanata in The Rise of Skywalker. Not voiced, played the part. She is a creature and droid puppeteer. Cleve, the human, or the humanoid, was Nicholas Day. Lots of BBC TV, Midsummer Murders, Doctors, Poirot, and 2 episodes of The Crown on Netflix. And Lieutenant Moy was Josh Slovic. He had a role in 2012's Les Miserables, 1917 as a soldier, and Doctor Who as a messenger. Before I get down to business, I still don't have a clue about Father and Son listed in the credits for episodes 1 through 3, or BOS number 1 and BOS number 2 for episodes 4 and 5. These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
The episode starts with Cassian's Ubercraft picking him up on steer guard. 5 stars, right? We've heard it mentioned. We know some stolen goods have come from this place, but Luthen has the Fondor Hallcraft waiting for Varian Sky, Cassian's identity for his Ghorman trip. They take off, hit lightspeed, and then they discuss it. Cassian advises against getting involved. He's thinking of how south things can go. It turns out Luthen and the Empire actually want the same thing. They want to use Ghorman for their own ends. Ghorman is going to be a sacrifice for the rebellion, and the Emperor is going to be a sacrifice to squash the rebels. Luthen wants to spark revolution across the galaxy. We know he gets his wish. It's going to be a tough watch to watch it unfold.
If it goes up in flames,
It will burn very brightly.
I'll skip this one.
On Coruscant, Kleya gets word in transit from Luthen that things didn't go well with Cassian, and, I want you to work on something else. The Ghorman front already reached out to voice displeasure, and in coded phrases, Kleya lets Luthen know, yeah, I'm one step ahead of you. She will deliver Vel and Cinta to the Ghormans.
Visiting friends?
Why do you ask?
I'm curious by nature.
I have friends everywhere.
As Vel arrives to the front, Cassian returns home to the safe house. I did not appreciate the making out here. I'm glad it stopped there at least. I don't want any of this in Star Wars. Even in an adult show, as some call this. I just don't want it, and I don't want what comes later either. Cassian updates Bix on his trip, and then she lets it slip that she had a visitor.
Was it dangerous?
Ghorman? No. Just all talk. A waste of time.
Uh-huh.
It's Luthen that scared me.
Tell me about it. He came after you left.
Cassian is indignant. He rode back with Luthen, and Luthen didn't mention any of this. So what is the game that he's playing?
He's so pissed off he's not gonna tell me. He has to know we're having this conversation. He doesn't do anything without a reason.
Maybe he just wants us to waste our time talking about it.
Elsewhere on Coruscant, Mon Mothma and her husband are on their way to parties. Political parties, but like actual parties. Drinks, dancing, rubbing elbows kind of parties. Perrin seems to be running the social calendar, and I think the ISB is placing a few too many new senators in power, don't you?
I count 80 new senators all hosting investiture banquets. It's tough squeezing a whole year's worth of insincerity into 3 nights.
You figure it out.
Now, 80 isn't that many when you remember how big that Senate chamber is, but it's not nothing. In a few years, it won't matter anyway, because Palpatine's going to sweep all of this away. Luthen gets a late-night visitor to his shop. It is Cassian. And I know Cassian's upset. This is beyond stupid. It strains credulity. Even in this made-up fantasy world, there is no way you go to the front door of this shop, even at night. I mean, you're telling me that he's worried about Bix, but then he does this? Look, if it was just him, maybe. But he's worried about her. This could cost him. It's not even worth discussing further. If the story was he didn't know how else to contact Luthen, maybe. But this? No. Terrible writing. Now, I know there's stuff in the shop. I've been ignoring all these things. There's the Sankara stones from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Padme's crown thing, Plo Koon's breathing device, and I think we see Freddy Krueger-like Star Killer gloves right in the foreground. I'm just not as interested this time in the minute background details.
You had to know she would tell me.
I thought it would be interesting if you didn't, but now you both disappointed me.
And that's what's most important, right? How it goes for you.
What's most important is the cause.
The cause. Not the rebellion. The cause. I like that, because Luthen is acknowledging, I don't care what happens to individuals or even groups, as long as it advances the cause.
Kill me or take me in. You're in. Oh, but Ghorman looks too painful. Bix is too vulnerable.
I give you everything.
Is this everything? This fury, this lack of control? Violating every protocol we live by? Soft on Ghorman, but willing to protect Bix at any cost.
We know Cassian is going to give all, but at this point in the story, he's holding back. Well, he's not holding back on Luthen, but he's not willing to lose Bix. So we don't see Bix in Rogue One. We hear him tell Jyn about all he's given up. We're being told the story now about all that he's had to do to get that win on Scarif.
We are not droids, Luthen.
We are not who we were when we started. Bix has to pull it together, or you will have to decide at what point it becomes too large a problem. Unless that's what you're doing right now.
Oh, no. That's gonna be up to you.
You really want that, Cassian? The cover story for his arrival is bringing a medallion left out of a shipment. But we don't see him have to use this cover story. It's just color to the scene. It shows us Luthen's always thinking. The ISB does that, mostly. We see Partagaz arriving at the ISB headquarters, and Supervisors Young and Hirt happen to be there, and Partagaz has some news for them. Saves me a meeting. Gorst is making a name for himself with his tactics.
Success invites scrutiny. Our cousins in military intelligence have been salivating over our interrogation results and have convinced the Emperor that Dr. Gorst is too valuable to be a one-man ISB asset. He's to be expanded into a program.
I don't know if there's any tie between what we see Gorst doing and years later with the New Republic's reconditioning techniques that we see on people like Pershing in The Mandalorian. It's also a little strange that he has the success in the ISB and then goes more public. I would have thought you put this program into use in the Navy and then it has some success and then it goes more secretive. Like, development in the Navy gets stole by use in the ISB and then you never hear from it again.
I'm counting on you to keep watch on these idiots.
An honor, sir.
Really? It's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm.
Yes, sir.
We'll have a brief Cinta.
Partagaz is a great character. Anton Lesser's delivery, his acting, it shines through. I love that Lonni passes the buck to his buddy here. It tracks for me, after all the goodwill that he bought in the meeting a couple episodes back. And he also gives a look that will come into play later, before we cut to Ghorman. The gal pals are reunited. Now, I don't mind this implied relationship, an implied relationship. I think Faye Marseille does a fantastic job of selling Faye as lovesick on Varada Sethu's Cinta. Cinta was injured or laid up, out of commission for a while. She's back in, and at the ISB, Partagaz warns Dedra about something, but she's already on the same page.
You walk a very narrow path, Dedra. Syril must never know what this is all really about.
I remind myself constantly, sir.
Oh no. Is Syril part of Dedra's long game? We're seeing two different couples back to back being affected by this rebellion. Maybe Syril has been part of Dedra's plan the whole time. Dedra may be more Imperial-minded than I think most of her character's fans would like to admit. I do think this scene sets up she is using his devotion. We don't see that from Cinta and Vel. Maybe with Dedra and Syril, it's not just to advance the Empire's cause, but even emotionally, I think she's using Syril. She may just be using him all around. I don't know if she feels bad for it at all, but she's using him. Luthen is using the Ghorman front. And the parallels are not surprising. Vel and Cinta, they check out the plans for the shipment heist, and Dedra and Syril are firming up their plans for their end of the heist. Sam decides to speak up in the underground meeting, and Vel has to point out, don't.
Don't what?
Don't talk. Don't think. Do as you are told. If you can't manage that, you don't belong here.
I know you have to have characters like Sam to make dumb decisions in order to make plot happens. And that happens in real life. People make dumb decisions. But the decision is made now. Tomorrow night, they're going to hit a shipment. And they've been warned and they've been told, do as we say, follow orders. We're going to steal from the Empire. That's a dangerous thing. Back on Coruscant, Bix is doing more drugs. Cassian wakes up, finds her staring out at another flashing warning light, And this is all we get. This is the only indication we get that what we see later from them is actually a mission. Well, the only other piece of information we're given is that look that Lonni gives as he walks away from his impromptu meeting with Hirt and Partagaz earlier. We're told now, basically, that's what's going on. This is where they get the confirmation. We have to get rid of Gorst. He is a mission for Cassian and Bix. The next scene is really disappointing on many levels to me. This show takes a side in the culture wars that I don't like. I more than dislike it. I know there's a parallel here in the last spoken lines in the scene.
We're worth more to him separately than together. Well, that's something we'll have to talk to him about.
Here I'm on Luthen's side. I mean, failure of one part could be failure of the whole. And then there's nothing left. It's one thing if he was just using up these people for nothing, but there are specific goals. He's got a piece, and he's going to play it. He's the general. There are hard choices. Cassian and Bix, Vel and Cinta, they haven't just proven they can't make hard choices right now, or even that they're not willing. They're admitting, we don't understand this. It's one thing once open war starts and taking, soldiers off the board, but they're not soldiers. Cassian did call himself, I'm a soldier. But they're not fighting soldiers as Cassian suggested to Bix or to Luthen at the beginning of the episode. He had to kill that soldier that she was upset about. They are expendable at this point. No one's fighting fair. It's not open rebellion. This stage is ugly, it's dirty, but if you don't have this stage, people like Mon Mothma don't get involved in a big way. It has to happen this way.
Upon my life and honor. For the peace and bounty of all beings.
Peace and bounty.
My full allegiance.
We get to see the Senate chamber once again. Mon Mothma is present as the new senators are taking their oath to the Empire. She doesn't participate fully, except for the one part where they talk about peace and bounty. This is a tip-off for the viewers. This is where her mental state is. This is where she's at in BBY3. She books it out. Aide-de-camp Erskine is there. They got parties to get to. Luthen and Kleya are on their way. I loved seeing the little glow up there. And then Perrin and Mon arrive at Skulden's party. They cross paths with Senator Bail Organa of Alderaan, and it's the debut of Ben Bratt. Remember, officially, Jimmy Smits was unavailable, and I thought Bratt did a great job.
Bail, how are you?
I'm free. That was my last investiture party of the season.
Oh, don't tell me you've left poor Braille up there all alone.
No, we had to split up to cover the rounds. I drew Skulden.
Yes, we almost did that, but...
Not tonight.
No, your family now.
In the party, Skulden mentions the kids, so it's been a year of marriage for Leda and Stekken. No mentions of grandchildren yet, thankfully. I mean, I know they got married young, but at least they haven't moved too fast. On Ghorman, Syril is completely aware of the impending heist, and he's on Overwatch. Vel has tried to stress chain of command to these green recruits. Remember, earlier in the episode, she made a command, not a request.
I can't stress this enough. You're all going to need to respect the chain of command. Cinta and I will have blasters. Nobody else. And I mean nobody.
Foreshadowing, that's going to come back to haunt them. And it's coming soon. They're almost ready to go. On Coruscant, Luthen is schmoozing. Some guests comment on another piece of Rakatan history, or at least that's what I'm understanding is the Lost Empire that he talks about with this ring. Like on Ghorman, Kleya is ready to play her part. Mashiko is worried about Skulden, but also worried about losing Luthen as a supplier.
You haven't told Luthen about the reappraisals, have you?
No, I promised, didn't I?
Yeah, sorry.
Don't worry.
Lonnie's at the party too. Supervisor Legret wonders, how did you guys get invites? But we find out it was all Partagaz's doing. He doesn't want anyone working the Midnight Oil during the Ghorman event. We get a quick line about the special guest that shows up later.
Partagaz had an emergency and tossed us the invites. Where's your buddy?
Oh, he'll be here.
What are we drinking?
Cali coolers, and they're amazing.
The Ghormans continue to get ready. Cinta places explosives. They wait for the convoy to come. And on Coruscant, Luthen approaches Mon Mothma. This is the scene where my insistence that Vel and Mon were sisters, it was based on evidence, but that is crushed.
I haven't heard from my cousin.
She's probably just being careful.
I'll tell her to check in with me.
Okay. I think that's a bad decision, but doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter. Luthen must have known the time for the special viewing was approaching because he's there when Perrin arrives with Skolden's wife Renai to take both of them into the gallery. And Luthen's there at the right time, on purpose. He's going to get in, and then Kleya will come with them. She's going to drag Lonni along.
Lonni! Perhaps you remember me. Kleya? You came by the shop to find something for your wife.
There's a quick scene where we check on the Ghorman operation waiting, and then we head back into the party on Coruscant where the special guest of Skolden is introduced.
Director Krennic, Luthen Rail.
What a pleasure.
How kind you are.
Senator Mothma, Perrin Firther, I'm sure you've met before.
Oh, yes, I've been a guest at her committee. What a festive evening this has become.
I like the little nod to this prior contact with Mon coming under committee. You know, him on the witness stand. You know, we get a history there. And I love that Luthen is so close to this high-value target, and he can't do anything about it. Can't draw attention. Mon's going to do that for him, though. Kleya needs all of that because Lonni is panicking.
This is suicide.
It's my favorite object in the collection. I was heartbroken when we sold it.
Luthen will tell them that's why I'm so keen on visiting with it.
Luthen and Kleya are given lines like these constantly to remind us how far ahead in this chess game they're at. This operation, however, is dangerous. It's where the bug has been hidden more than how difficult it is to get out, but it's difficult to get out too. Then we go back to Ghorman.
They've done it. The carrier's down. Repeat, the carrier is down.
We're in play.
Syril is watching all this from nearby, but somehow he hasn't been spotted. He reports to Coruscant that everything is going according to plan. The other heist at the art piece across the room in Coruscant, that's dangerous too.
The Tinian Codex was forged 2,000 years ago on a planet where sight was considered a disability.
And what were you going to do if I wasn't here?
Anything I had to. This is do or die, Lonni, so move to your left and listen closely because we may be tested.
We're cutting between these two heists, and the Ghorman front is pulling off theirs without issue. It looks like things are going smoothly, but on Coruscant in Skolden's gallery, Kleya has to use the class that she put on while she was getting ready to try and pry this thing loose. She ends up drawing blood to do it. Lonni is still panicking. Krennic is telling Mon inconvenient truths in service of the enormous lies that the Empire is telling.
Insurgencies have a long history of puffing up their failures.
We were taught it was a systematic execution.
Well, that is exactly my point. Criminals love to lie. After all, who wants to die for lawless ineptitude?
There's a nice contrast for how smoothly, by design, on two sides, the Ghorman operation is going, compared with Kleya not being able to get that thing unstuck. Krennic points out to Mon Mothma, basically, that you're using propaganda just like he is. Words still have meaning, he says. In fact, the Carmine people at the center of this discussion with her have rules that include trespassers getting skinned alive. But if they're part of the greater universe, where does the right to govern end when it comes to being part of the galaxy? She seems to have no problem. Well, that's their right to rule. It's not the trump card that he's playing there, but it is a good point.
Is that what they did?
It was a very long time ago.
They had their own code of conduct.
Ah, my rebel is your terrorist. Something like that. What a swell party this is.
And the first real trouble to hit the Ghorman op comes not when the old lady arrived, but when Lezine shows up and won't go away. Sam didn't listen. He pulls a blaster on a fellow citizen when Lezine wants to see what's going on, and there's a tussle for it and a blast.
Shots fired.
One shot.
So who did it hit, Mr. Burns? We are slowly shown different faces. Not Carol's daughter, Enza. It's not Syril. That's not Vel. Not that guy, not her. It's Cinta. This sure thing of an operation just cost a real operative her life. Syril is told to call in the response team, make sure they come in loud so that everybody hears. Vel somehow is holding it together, even if she is in shock. You know, she doesn't just shoot Sam right there on the spot. Lazine apparently has put together what's happening because he offers to carry Cinta out, and he does. On Coruscant, back in Skulden's gallery at the party, the time has come. The group arrives where Kleya and Lonni are looking at this codex. Lonni saves the day by speaking up about the piece and why it's special to Kleya.
It's a book. You read by touch. Your hand. It's from a planet where blindness was considered a gift.
Oh, well. I'm sure we can all think of some people who'd be right at home.
We still aren't sure if Kleya got it out, but I felt like I had seen her do it. Even though when you go back for the second watch and you don't see it, you're like, wait, I thought we saw her get it out of there. Vel is in the getaway vehicle on Ghorman with Sam, and she's pointing out, you are going to live your entire life with the knowledge that you cost somebody else their life because of your lawless ineptitude.
To die like this because of you. Some whining, simpering, foolish child. Don't you dare cry.
Back to the party on Coruscant, and we get Kleya and Luthen leaving. Hey, she's got a present, the bug. He's much calmer now, and though he claims he's tired of fake smiling, he's got actual reasons to smile now.
You're welcome.
My face hurts from smiling.
Complain all you like at work.
You should have killed Krennic while we were up there.
That's the spirit.
I wonder how much heartache that if they actually killed, how much heartache would have been saved if you killed Krennic right there. Would it have helped the galaxy, or would it have somehow hurt the chances of the rebellion to end up winning? From the party, we head elsewhere on Coruscant to wrap up the episode and the arc. Somehow, Bix got into the new offices of Gorst. For some unknown reason, this guy is heading back from a party to the actual torture room? Like, what? I would have liked to have seen a conversation at the party. You know, he's told maybe a plant from Luthen tells him somebody wants to meet you and you have to leave early because he carries this dessert into the torture room. And unless that's also his office, why is he doing that? I mean, it doesn't matter, really. But I like to know that because it stands out to me. So Bix has a gun on him, puts him in the chair, straps him in, puts the device on his head, turns it on, and leaves. Now, when you're watching it, you go, wait a minute, you're leaving evidence here. Bix shoots a guard on the way out, she keeps walking, then Cassian joins her and detonates an explosive, covering their tracks. That's the end of the recap and discussion for Episode 6, the last of the BBY3 story arc. 2 more groups of stories to watch, 6 more episodes. Next up, the BBY2 story arc, 7, 8, and 9. And at Star Wars Celebration, Tony Gilroy let it slip. This will be the arc that we get to see K2SO join the fight. It is not clear if we'll see how, or if, when we see it, it will match what came in a Marvel one-shot comic. We actually have a question this week from Daniel of Star Wars Now This Is Podcasting and creator of Star Wars Podcast Day on the subject of K2SO.
This is the message I was sent.
Daniel writes, do you think the show should stick to the canon explanation for how Cassian and K2SO first meet? It was already depicted in a one-shot Marvel comic. I know it's just a single comic issue that came out almost 8 years ago, but I think Lucasfilm said everything was canon going forward. So should the show stick to what was already depicted for the sake of a single unified story, or are contradictory storylines okay if a creator has a different idea?
I'm K2SO. I'm a reprogrammed Imperial droid.
Thank you, Daniel. Interesting line of thought. On the one hand, Disney and Lucasfilm have let too many people give their takes. And I think the reasoning was, let's not hamper their creativity. But here's the thing. Some of the most amazingly creative things come about because of the restrictions you place on them. One of the greatest plot points in all of cinema, in my opinion, is the square peg in a round hole scene from Apollo 13. Now, you would think then that I would be in favor of keeping that one-shot comic timeline. No. I'm not just a show-only guy, but a live-action-only guy. Animated shows can be treated as canon unless what they're showing could only happen because they're showing it in animation. Some things you cannot do in live-action that you would do in animation. There are some things, and I don't consider much of The Bad Batch to end up being canon because of that. Some of it, sure. Some of Rebels, sure. Not all of it. And comic books, not a single panel to me is more important than the quality of the story. Now, I want to make sure my opinion comes across here. The Acolyte is live action, but The Acolyte, despite being live action, should not be considered canon. It is poor quality. I know some people like it. It is terrible. That's okay, you can like it. Certain aspects of Obi-Wan Kenobi should not be canon. And again, listen, I understand. They are canon. I can't erase The Last Jedi. In my mind, I separate that story, and I don't consider any part of that movie to be part of Star Wars. I don't consider The Acolyte to be part of Star Wars. I don't consider certain parts of other shows part of Star Wars. I'm not delusional. I don't think that my way is the only way that people can enjoy it. I just think the wrong people were allowed to tell this story, and I don't consider that when I think of Star Wars. And it's really not that hard to do. It really isn't. So, should they keep the comic book story as canon? No, not if you can tell it better than what they do in the comic. Gilroy wasn't the author of that comic book story. So if he wants to do it different, I think I'm going to have faith that what he puts on the screen is going to be better, and we'll go from there. You can send feedback or comments like Daniel did to our email address at thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. And there are other ways. In our last recap and discussion episode, I included YouTube comments. I won't make promises that every comment is going to get a mention, but I'm going to do my best. Thank you for joining me today for the 6th episode of Season 2 of Andor called What a Festive Evening. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video and tell people about This Is The Way podcast. I'm your host, Steve Loscalzo, and this is The Way. May the Force be with you, always.